for a team that I still think with Boston, when we compare them to other conference finals teams, you're like, wait, like a perfect example, Atlanta making the East Conference Finals. Like you already sort of forget that. You're like, oh shit, that's right. Atlanta made the Eastern Conference Finals. Is that really who they are? I think Portland's got one of those as well. I still think Boston's better positioned to feel like they have a group here that gives them a chance. But there's also times too when I think about Middleton where the Bucks might have back-to-back titles if he didn't get hurt.
That's where I've landed mentally. I think with Middleton, the Bucks were probably a little bit better, and it does feel like the Celtics were a year ahead of schedule, a little 96 Pats-esque with this, where it's like, oh, a year early. Okay, we made it. They have a 17.1. We'll just do this now. They did a 17.1 million exception for Fournier, and that sounds a lot easier to use than you think, because if you go through, I have 8 guys that would make sense, because I think if you're them, you have to get another wing. You have to be able to play 3 wings. You need insurance for Tatum and Brown. You can't be in a situation where they're playing 40 plus minutes a game in the playoffs. So Duncan Robinson, 16.9. Norm Powell, 16.8. Marcus Morris, 16.4. Malik Beasley's 15.5. Kevin Huerter, 14.5. Caldwell Pope's 14. McDermott's 13.7. And Kuzma's 13. And I think they're going to aggressively spend, because one of the things with the Warriors is the Warriors are the most aggressive spenders of any really good multi-title champion that we've had. Like, they don't give a shit. And they spent $300 million last year. It's going to cost more this year if they want to keep Peyton and Looney. And they don't care, because they have the money and they make a ton of money with the Chase Center, and they're going to spend it.
By the way, no one should care. All right. If you own one of these teams, none of you should care, because you're about to double your TV rights at worst and potentially triple them. So
yeah, this is the best case scenario there. This is the opposite of like the Sarver experience, right? The Warriors, they're so competitive up and down through that organization. They're just like, we have a chance to win titles. We don't care what it costs. Like even last year, Oubre probably cost them $80 million just having him on the roster. They could have gotten rid of him. So if you're the Celtics, you could try to, maybe the Clippers, if they have Paul George and Kawhi back, maybe they don't need Norm Powell and Marcus Morris. I don't know if the Celtics can bring Marcus Morris back. I don't know if he was the most popular. I don't know if the Jaylen Brown, Marcus Morris stuff was awesome.
But I mean, when you're talking about owners that don't care, I don't think Ballmer cares about Norman Powell. So that's why whenever I see these trade exceptions, and we went through it, and I asked Bobby Marks about it, I go, "What have you done anything?" He sent me all of this work on historically going through like 2 decades of trade exceptions.
That very rarely it gets used.
It's like less than 25%.
But where it could get used, if the Celtics called the Hawks and they wanted to flip Grant Williams for Kevin Huerter, this is an example, right? Where you could trade Grant Williams to the Hawks and take back Huerter, who makes $12 million more than Grant does, but you could fit Huerter in the exception. It's stuff like that where the exception can come into play, and the Celtics could look at it as, would it be easier to fill like a 20 to 25 minute a game off the bench person with size, maybe a little more size than Grant, because Grant was really badly exposed those last 2 rounds, and I think the Miami series in Golden State was bad.
I would pay money to see Grant Williams and Trae Young play together.
Grant was tough in person. We've talked about it before, but especially in Game 6 when he was terrible, but was also trying to be the leader during the timeouts. It's like you got to be at least a C+ to start yelling at Tatum and Brown about what they should be doing. Like maybe get 1 rebound, maybe make a 3.
I think when you see those times where Ime interacts with him differently than everybody else, I think that tells you a lot.
Yeah.
But Ime's like, dude, I don't want to hear it right now. And it's in the middle of the game.
So the question for them it's a 2-piece move, right? If you flip Grant into somebody that could fit in that exception, or you just try to get somebody with that exception and just hope a team's either trying to dump salary or use that money for something different, or you keep the team you have and you just go with the mid-level. There's a lot of free agents this year. They're ranging from like, the Dragic types. TJ Warren's a free agent. Gary Payton's going to be out there. You have Ingles coming off an injury, people like that. You have Connaughton. You have Kyle Anderson and Bruce Brown and Tyus Jones and people like that. So there's a lot of like mid-level guys, and Boston's going to be an attractive destination. What would be your move? What would you do? Would you keep the nucleus, or would you try to get frisky?
Oh, I definitely try to get frisky because, I think you need to come back. I know it sounds simple. Just say, hey, be better next year. But I don't want to hear about expenses. I don't want to hear about cost. None of these franchises are worth less. These guys have all killed it as far as the appreciation and growth of the value of these franchises. And there's a big thing coming here too. And I don't know how that's going to play out, which I know we'll talk about probably with the Golden State stuff later on. But I'd look at this group going, we are still like, I don't think this is, and again, when I say it this way, I'm not saying it. I always hate whenever I say we, because I don't mean it that way. I mean, if you're running the team, but this is a really good group to keep building on. And I would hope ownership, and they have a really good track record. Like when they're close, this ownership's not afraid. So I'll listen to some of the local criticism of the owners going like, are you guys not paying attention? Like they may not decide to pay the tax for an 8 seed. Okay. But when it's close, I don't really think these guys screw around. So yeah, I'd love to see Rob Williams healthy for a full season. I don't know if that exists. I don't know what Horford's going to look like next year, because I don't think you want to mess with that. I think I'd rather just pay him and have the option because he was so good and he's so important in so many other things that he does. I just think they need some other kind of wing outlet that also defends. And I think they thought they had that twice over, and that didn't really work out. And that's why they went in the direction of White, because White provided them a little bit more playmaking, but it didn't work out. And look, they lost to one of the best organizations we've seen in the history of this game. So there you go.
And the Neesmith thing not working out really hurt them. And I'm not giving up on him yet, but that would have been a really big monkey wrench for them in that series if he could have played 15, 60 minutes a game. It's
hard, right? It's hard to be any kind of shooter when you just don't play. You know?
I agree.
So there you go.
John Wall buyout. Bradley Beal super trade. Mike Conley sitting there. Ricky Rubio coming off an injury as a free agent. Brogdon seems to be available. They have the mid-level at 6.3. There is
Brogdon
Joe
just
Ingles.
Doesn't play enough. We all like Brogdon. He's really good. He just doesn't play enough.
Joe Ingles, Tyus Jones, Pat Connaughton, Kyle Anderson, Nick Batum, TJ Warren. Those are just some names I wrote down. I don't know how they're going to play it, but I think they're going to be aggressive. And I think they feel like they have a chance to succeed for the next 4 or 5 years. But the key will be Tatum. What can he add? He will be better 3 years from now than he is now. What will he add? What is that journey going to look like? And I can't wait to find out.